All right, everyone, welcome to our last session of the day. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties. Sarah, thank you so much for being patient with us. That's how it goes with technology, right?
You're right.
I am so excited, and you have presented for us before, and you have done an outstanding job. So thank you for continuing to come back and be a part of our conference to share your ideas. I want to give you just a little bit of time to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done and your experiences.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm an associate faculty here at Ashford, and I've been working here for almost 10 years now. So it's been a while, and I've really enjoyed it. And prior to Ashford, I worked in elementary school and preschool settings as well. I mainly taught third grade, but I also had experience in kindergarten, second, and fourth as well. And then before that, I was at a daycare, so I got lots of experience while in school working with the infants through the after school age. And then I also have experience working as a response to intervention coordinator, where I took together all of the information that was needed for student support team and at-risk kids, and the 504 coordinator as well. So I have a little bit of knowledge in that realm, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me today.
We are also so excited to have you. And I just knew that you had so much great background to share. So I wanted you to be able to convey those words in your own voice. So thank you so much for sharing with us today and being able to move up while one of our presenters couldn't make it, and being so flexible. We really appreciate you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you again for having me.
Of course. Okay, next slide, please.
No, hang on.
It's okay. No rush.
There we go.
All right, here's your first disclaimer slide, and it says that an online degree from Ashford University does not lead to immediate teacher licensure in any state. And if you want to become a classroom teacher and you are here at Ashford University with us, that you will need to go back to your individual state and do the research to become certified and licensed. Next slide, please. This disclaimer says that Ashford is not responsible for any of the links, the websites, videos, or pictures that are shared in this presentation. So Sarah, the floor is yours. Thank you so much again for being here, and we can't wait to hear about your ideas.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, here today, we are going to talk a little bit about how to integrate learning into everyday situations. So hopefully everyone is having a good day, and this is going to be a very lighthearted presentation where we can just talk about ideas of how to integrate little bits of knowledge throughout the day. And when I initially started to put together this presentation, my thought was to address a topic that answers a question that I get asked a lot, which is, what can I do at home to help my child? And I figured other teachers got this same question. But then the bonus of it is that it's pretty relevant to our current situation, where a large percentage of kids are going to be engaged in virtual learning. And that means parents are going to have a more direct influence in the day-to-day educational tasks. So integrating into this everyday task is extremely relevant right now. And hopefully there'll be some good ideas that you can take away and implement. So, as I said, the question I get asked a lot is how can I help my child at home? And while not all parents are asking this or able to help a whole lot, my standard answer is usually read. Read. If you don't have any time for anything else, just take out a little bit of chunk for reading. But then sometimes that wasn't enough. Like, parents wanted more. So I thought, well, what else can we do to tell them you don't have to sit down and do a task. You don't have to sit down and do worksheets. You don't have to sit down and do like a lesson or anything. It's more about integrating everything you do during the day. And it's just grabbing those little nuggets of time that just builds on itself and ends up being what's called a teachable moment. And parents are busy. They don't really want to have to take the time to sit down anyway. So if they can know these skills and learn how to integrate, it's more beneficial for the child at home anyway. So my answer is take advantage of teachable moments every day. So let's take a look at what is a teachable moment. And a teachable moment is a time when a child's interest is highly piqued. So it can occur spontaneously, or you can create them. but it's when they are super interested in something at that moment in time. And a lot of times it follows a question such as, you know, what's the moon made of? Or why is the grass green? And you can just take that and run with it. And if you don't know the answer, it's even better because you can say, well, let's look that up. Let's go find that answer out together. And those are the moments that we can build on to create a deeper learning experience for kids. One of my favorite things to do is to incorporate games. Games are fun, they're interactive, it's a way to teach information, and most children love games. So one suggestion that I find very popular with the early childhood group is to play I'm Thinking of an Animal. So you might be sitting at dinner time, or you might be in the car, or you might just be waiting in line at the grocery store, and you're just standing there and it's just empty time. And so I would say, you know, I'm thinking of an animal, and the answers have to be yes or no. So you'll say, I'm thinking of an animal, and the child will say, does it have a tail, or is it brown? And then you can go back and forth, and they're using deductive reasoning to be able to find the answer to it. And I usually stick to easy animals like dogs and cats and cows. And but some of the older kids really get kind of advanced, and they get into geckos and more obscure things that aren't quite mainstream. But that's also a lot of fun, and that's a good idea. Another game I like to do is to use a timer to have them clean up. So you could use a stopwatch or a kitchen timer and challenge them to clear the table or put their shoes on in under 5 minutes. And so you start the timer and you see how long it takes them. And this is a really great way to introduce the concept of elapsed time. Also, I Spy is a big one. Children love to play this game. It's a great way to incorporate questioning, visual acuity, where they really have to observe their environment and think about what it is that you're trying to have them guess. And it's a lot of fun too. And finally, sorting. You can sort all kinds of things around the house, from toys to laundry to dishes. Sorting can be done by item, such as sorting shirts together, or you can do it by color. You can also sort recyclable items like plastic and cardboard, so have the kids sort, after you're done with them, sort those things out. And that's a really easy way to integrate the concept of sorting. So now we're going to go take a look at where you can integrate learning into specific environments. And we're going to start with the playground. One thing you can do at the playground is you can navigate an obstacle course. And so you grab your stopwatch and have your child design a route. And you can take time trials up and down on the jungle gym. You can go over the slide and then to the swings and back, and see how long it takes them to do that. And this can be a physical workout and also just an opportunity to work with numbers. So while the playground is always fun in of itself and kids love it, you can take it a little bit deeper and a little bit longer and take one more step and have them time themselves. And that would be a very good teachable moment at that time. You can also have a scale model, which is where your child would, now this might be for a little older kids, but you would have your child count off different spaces. And so from maybe the sand pit to the seesaw, how many footsteps is that? And then you would measure it. And then at home, you can go back and you can create kind of a model of it. So if it was 10 steps from the seesaw to the sand pit, you could go back home and draw that out, and they could use a unit of measurement to represent one step. So maybe an inch or 2 inches, and draw that out and make a scale. Some kids really get into that, and you can go even further besides just drawing and do clay and toothpicks and marshmallows and create structures of what those places at the playground looked like. And then another really fun one is what we call give a bird a treat. And you can, depending on where you live, you can get pine cones and coat them in peanut butter and roll them in birdseed. And then you can tie a string to it and then hang that in a tree and just watch the birds come and eat. So it's a little homemade bird feeder, which kids would really like that a lot. And then obviously you can have them use their imagination. They can pretend the slide is a castle's tower and the swing set is a moat. And you create a fairy tale story together while they're playing on the jungle gym structure. And then obviously sidewalk chalk is always a good one too. And then in your backyard, you can do things like grow a garden, where kids can learn all kinds of things from gardens, such as measurement and tracking growth, where your food comes from, different types of fruits and vegetables. And it doesn't have to be food, it could be flowers. Some kids are really motivated by different types of flowers and things other than just food to grow. So there's a ton of learning that you can do in that activity. You can also learn from the weather, which is you can take a container with a ruler and secure it and measure it for rain or snowfall, and then have your child chart those changes. And so instead of just, looking out the window and watching it rain, they actually now have something that they're looking at and charting and using those types of skills, which is very important. Another thing is to look up at the clouds. I'm sure we all have memories where we just laid on the grass and we looked up at the clouds and made predictions and thoughts about what they would be. Is it a bird? Is it a bunny? Is it shaped like a whatever comes to mind? And I think that's important. I don't know if kids really do that anymore, but it's definitely a good one to bring back if they don't. And finally, also get in touch with texture. Gather outdoor materials such as rocks and leaves and flower petals, and have your child describe the feel of them. And is it crunchy? Is it smooth? Is it rough? And these descriptive words really build their vocabulary. So you can do this on walks. You can just do this in the backyard. And it's a great way to just understand different words for textures and increasing their vocabulary, as I said. Now, when you're walking around the block, there's a lot of things you can do that tie in also with the backyard stuff. But if you're walking around the block, one thing that I like to do is to count the steps. So you can count them, and then you can record them in a notebook, and then have them count how many steps it is from point A to point B when they're walking, and then how many steps is it from point A to point B when they're skipping, and how many steps is it when they're point A to point B when they are running, and have them track those differences. They can definitely see, feel, hear, and touch while they're outside. Encourage them to listen to the sounds that they're hearing. Is it the birds? Is it the cars? Is it just other kids outside playing? What is it that they're hearing? And have them tell you, and use that time to talk about what it is that they're observing. You can play a game such as I Spy with my little eye, something that's red, and then they have to decide if it's a flower or a car or a stop sign. And as I mentioned earlier, playing I Spy definitely helps with deductive reasoning and observation skills. So it's another game you can do inside or outside. Definitely make time for inquiry, which means just when you're outside taking a walk, just ask them questions. Like, what do you think that bird's saying when it's chirping? What do you think they're trying to tell us? And what do you think a space alien would notice about our block? And just get them thinking. So just ask an open-ended question and just start the conversation. You can build a story. One thing that I found that I like to do, and it's really fun, is you can go back and forth and build a story. So you might say once, and then your child would say upon, and then I would say and then your child would say time, and you would go back and forth and build a story together while you're out walking. And that could happen anywhere. It doesn't have to be outside. And then finally, you can do like what's called a walking spelling bee, and you can have your child spell the word squirrel. So if it's a younger child, you might want to do a shorter word like curb or street, and mix up the words, and then trade off who finds the word and who can spell it. And then just hearing the letters is as helpful as seeing them. So they actually have to visualize in their mind the order of the letters rather than having it in paper in front of them, which builds on their thinking skills for sure. And then at the grocery store, one thing that is really fun is you can take a look at your list, and when you place the items in your cart, have your child add up the prices to see how much it is, up to about like maybe $20. So see if your child can find the combination of products that get closest to that amount. And that might be for a little bit more for older kids, and you could make it a little bit easier for younger kids and just have them simply add it. You could also round it. So if a jar of spaghetti sauce is $2.95, you tell them we'll round that up to $3 because it's only 5 cents more. And that's a very good discussion to just get them thinking about rounding and numbers and adding and math skills. Going on to further into that, you can estimate the weight of the products that you buy. So have them pick out the number of apples they think is going to make a pound without going over, and then use that scale in the produce section to check the guess. Another thing you can do is to explain how the store is laid out in different areas. So you have the frozen section, and you have the refrigerated section, and you have the pantry, and all these things that are separated, and you have to explain, like, why would they be separated? How come you can't keep ice cream out in the middle of the store where the canned pineapple is? And have those conversations with them. And it's a great way to just build on their cognitive skills. And then definitely, as you can see in the picture, you can read the aisles. So there's numbers for them, and then there's words. And you can say, we're looking for cucumbers, is that in the vegetable section, or is that in the meat section? And have them read it and tell them what letters you see, and if they know the word, even better. And if they're younger, then maybe count the letters or tell you what the letters are, and just use that stimulus to keep them engaged. And then also have them create their own shopping list. Give your child their very own list that they created. And then when you're in the store together, they're responsible for finding those things. And that gives them a huge sense of independence. And they have to write, they have to practice writing skills on their list. And then they have to practice reading what they wrote. And if they're not reading and writing, then, and they're younger, they can draw a picture of it. So if they need bananas, then you can just draw a picture of bananas. And that keeps them entertained in the store as well. So it's a win-win on that side. Moving on into the car, one thing that you can do to integrate learning during time in the car is to predict the total cost of gas. So if you know that you need 6 gallons and it's $3.29 a gallon, how much are you going to spend? And this can go back to the rounding where you have them add by threes. So either they can do 6 times 3 or add 3 6 times, and just mental math kind of practice, really, which is really important and is a great thing to build on as their kids, because that helps so much in the future when they're older. Because I think mental math is difficult to do if it's not something that you've done from childhood on. And then another thing you can do is ask them, which way did we go? So maybe for the younger kids who are learning their left and right still, when you make a turn, ask them, did we just turn left or did we just turn right? And that's an easy way to integrate that. You can also have them look at license plates of other cars, see how many letters and numbers they can point out on a ride or at a stoplight. Have them check out the license plate next to your car. You can play a rhyming game. So say you're in the car and you're waiting in traffic and you're just sitting there and you want to decide, you could play a rhyming game. So one way to do this is to have your child answer your statement with a rhyme. So if I say, I see a tree, then my child would say, it is green, because tree and green rhyme. And so it gets them having to think about literacy and rhyming words, and it's just a way to fill in that little gap of time with something that's teachable. You can play a new version of red light, green light, which is you can predict how long that red light's going to last. So if you come up to a red light and you're sitting there, have them predict, how long do you think this light's going to stay red? And then you can count and see how long that was and how close your guess was. also a good way to make sure that you cover the importance of safety and making sure that they know that they need to fasten their seatbelts. So it's a time to discuss like what's safe in a car, like what is it that is needed to make sure that you are riding safely. And then the last one is you can test your memory. You can ask your child to direct you in the car on a familiar route. So when it comes time to make a turn, or you look for a specific street name, see if your child remembers the route and the pathway to your destination. I know that when you go the same route every day, such as like from school to home, they pretty much figure that out pretty quickly, like which way the cars turn. So it would be a fun way to have them see if they can give you the directions home, and a great way to encourage that cognitive thinking as well. And one thing, lots of things you can do at home for sure. One of the ones that's my favorite is the pretend food and cooking, which I know that this is covered a lot in early childhood sectors, but I love it because it's just such a great way to incorporate them into the dinner process and into just understanding where food comes from, and that you know, food isn't always just from the grocery store. It comes in the ground and it comes from trees, and it's a great way to start those discussions. And because I think a lot of times kids just think that the magic of the grocery store and the food just appears, and that's not really the case. They need to know how it got there. It got on a truck, and then the truck delivered it to the store. And so those kinds of conversations are very important for kids to have. And then obviously when you're pretend food cooking, you can work on measurement and pouring liquids into the mix, and then they can stir. And there's a lot of things that they can do on their level that allows them to participate in the food process. And it's a great way to just bond with your child as well. One of the things at bedtime that I think is a really great idea is you could have like a designated time called tuck-in time, where it's about 10 minutes of time just with you and your child one-on-one, where they can just talk to you. And I mean, sometimes it can be like where you read a story, but I think sometimes it's better to not read a story at that time and just talk. And it's amazing how your child will come out and tell you what's on their mind or what's bothering them, or something that happened at school that day that through the hustle and bustle of pickup and dinner and homework and bath time in bed, it just didn't get discussed. And then, you know, if there was a problem that happened, they may not ever have the chance to say it, because after school and you know, even when we're home, like even during virtual learning, it's still going to be hustle and bustle because you're still coordinating all of the stuff around a schedule. So it's important to have that time to just sit one-on-one with your child and discuss. And I think teachers should tell parents that, because it's a way to make sure that if there's something that's bothering them or they just want to talk, that's a great time to do it. And a 10-minute tuck-in time is what I think is a great way to do it. And it really helps build that bond with your child. So that's another easy way to integrate learning into your day, and is a good suggestions for teachers to give parents. And then obviously in the end, just make sure you ask lots of open-ended and thought-provoking questions, and just constantly ask them, well, why do you think that? Or what made you say that? Or, you know, make them develop the conversation more. Just prompt them and make them tell you more. That's the goal. And I think teachers need to be able to tell parents that, because I don't know if parents do it on their own. And so if teachers are nudging them and saying, just make sure that you have them ask questions and open-ended type of conversations is important. So in conclusion, to kind of wrap it all up, I know I gave a lot of ideas, but if you wanted to give more of a general summary of it all, it's important to just constantly talk to your child and ask those questions, and make sure that parents know and teachers know to pause long enough to listen to their answer. I think sometimes we don't take the time to just really let them talk and get their thoughts out. And that's important because it validates what they're thinking and saying, and it shows that you care and that you want to know what they have to say, and that builds that relationship. So it's very important to do that. And then when that is established, then the learning that you're integrating with these ideas can happen. And you make sure you use your child's interests. If your child is really interested in space, use that or if they're really interested in drawing, like they love to draw and art, use that as a device to dig their learning deeper. And that's what, you know, if they're interested in space, it may not be in the curriculum at school, but go for it. Go find out what a supermoon is. And supermoons happen certain times of the year. Well, mark it down on your calendar and say, okay, well, supermoon is on September 3rd, and we're going to go out and look at it and see what that is. And those kinds of things help build their cognition. So as I said, teachable moments can be spontaneous, they can be created, but the key is to be open to them and take advantage of those moments to make sure that you broaden your child's knowledge. So if you have any ideas, today's presentation, I would love to hear them, and we can talk about maybe things that you've tried that you think would work to help parents understand a little bit better of how to build these teachable moments in during the day. And it doesn't have to be a sit-down lesson. It's more about building on little nuggets of knowledge and how we can integrate that. Oh, and here's my references. So lots of these ideas came from these websites. So if you need to refer back to them, check out these websites, because these were the majority of the ideas came from, and they were very resourceful. So,
Sarah, as always, wonderful, wonderful job. I'm going to stop the recording.